Hi, today we're going to learn about functions, and this is under college algebra review. So the first problem says f of x equals, okay, so we're given f of x equals 2x plus 9. This is not a g. This is a 9. 2x plus 9, and then g of x equals 16 minus x squared. So the first problem says, what is f of negative 3 plus g of 2? So it's just pretty much substitution. So the function of f of x, you can also write it as y, or if that makes it easier. So you're just plugging negative 3 into the function f of x. So f of negative 3 equals. So what I mean by putting negative 3 into the function is wherever you see an x, you plug in negative 3. So there's an x right here, and so it'd be 2 times negative 3, because it's 2 times x, right? Plus 9. So 2 times negative 3 plus 9 is negative 6 plus 9, which is just positive 3. So we found this value, f of negative 3. Now let's find g of 2. G of 2 is, see, let's go back to this function, g of x. So what g of 2 is, what you're doing is you're plugging negative 2 into the function. So wherever you see an x, you plug in negative 2. So it's 16 minus negative 2 squared. Okay, so we know that negative 2 squared is positive 4, so it's 16 minus 4. What is that? 16 minus 4 is just positive 12. So, we'll just put, now we know our numbers, so f of negative 3 is positive 3, plus g of 2, sorry, this should be a positive 2, sorry, not a negative, right? Because it says g of 2, not negative 2. So it should be 16 minus 2 squared. So that's 16 minus 4. What is that? 12. Just positive 12. Oh, I got the same answer, so. But I just want to make sure it's not negative 2, it's positive 2. So 3 plus g of 2, which is 12, which is 15. Okay, so next problem. Hold on, I'm just going to erase the board. I just have to rewrite it. The function. Okay, so 2, they're asking f of 5 minus g of 4. And then keep in mind that they are given f of x equals 2x plus 9, and g of x is 16 minus x squared. Okay, so f of 5, let's first find what f of 5 is. So let's look at the function f of x, so it's this whole thing, and then you just plug in 5 into the function. So wherever you see an x, you just times it by 5. So it's 2 times 5 plus 9. So that would be 19, because 5 times 2 is 10, plus 9 is 19. Now let's find a g of 4. G of x is this function, so g of 4 would be 16 minus 4 squared. So 16 minus 4 squared is 0, right? Because 16 minus 4 squared is 16 minus 16 is 0. So now we can put it, so we know that f5 is 19, and then minus g of 4, which is 0, which is just 19. Let's do for 3. So the problem asks f of -1 times g of -2. I still have to rewrite this again. Write it. What is f of x? So first step, let's find f of -1. So this is the function of f of x, so wherever you see an x, you plug in -1. So it's 2 times -1 plus 9. So 2 times -1 is -2 plus 9 is positive 7. Let's do g of -2. This function, g of x, wherever you see an x, you plug in -2. So it's 16 minus -2 squared. So that's like 16 minus -2 squared is positive 4. So 16 minus 4 is 12. Okay. So now we just have to put in this. So we know that f of -1 is positive 7. And then you have to times it by g of -2, which is positive 12. So 7 times 12 is 84. That's your final answer. Let's do 4. Let's do f of 5 divided by g of 5. So we know that f of x is 2x plus 9, and g of x is 16 minus x squared. So first let's find f of 5. So what's f of 5? Let's look. So you just plug in 5 into f of x. So 2 times 5 plus 9. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 9 is 19. And then let's do g of 5. So it's 16 minus 5 squared. So that's 16 minus 25. So what would that be? That would be -9. Okay, so now we know our value. So we said that f of 5 is 19 divided by g of 5, which is -9. So that should be your final answer. Okay, now we're doing something a little different. We're doing Goff. It's G, it's open circle, or it's not multiplication. Okay, so yeah, it's basically putting a function inside another function. Okay, so when you're doing this problem, you always start on the right-hand side. So first, we gotta find f of negative 2. So here's the function f. So f of negative 2 would be 2 times negative 2 plus 9. So 9 times negative 4, which is positive 5, right? Yeah, positive 5. So we know what f of 2 is. So f of negative 2 is positive 5. So what we're doing is putting this 5 inside of this function. This sounds weird, I know. So it's like saying g of 5. So you will start on the right hand side. So 5 is going inside the function of g of x. So the function of g of x is 16 minus x squared. So wherever you see an x, you plug in 5. That's what g of 5 means. So it's 16 minus 5 square. So 16 minus 5 square is minus 25. So 16 minus 5 is negative 9. So that's what goth means. That's what this means. It doesn't mean multiplication. So first I had to find f of negative 2, and we said it was 5. So and then you have to plug in 5 into the function of g of x, and that's how we get negative 9. Okay. Number 6. So the problem asks us, what is f of g of x? So another way of saying this is, okay, so in words, what we're doing is we're putting the function g of x, into f, or you could write it as f of g if that makes it simpler. So what did we say f of x was? F of x is this, 2x plus 9. And then we said g of x is 16 minus x squared. Okay, so you can either do fog or f of g of x. So let's look at our g of x is this whole thing, 16 minus x squared. So we're putting this inside of this. So f of g of x, or fog, it doesn't matter, they're the same thing, is, okay, so we're putting 16 minus x squared into the function f of x. So wherever you see an x, you're putting this whole thing. So it's 2 times this whole thing, which is g of x, which is 16 minus x squared. 16 minus x squared plus 9. Okay, now let's FOIL and combine like terms. 2 times 16 is 32. And then 2 times negative x squared is negative 2x squared plus 9. Let's combine like terms. So 32 plus 9 is... Okay, so let's do the negative 2. We don't have any more x squared, so let's just bring down the negative 2x squared. And then 32 plus 9 is 41, plus 41. That's your final answer. Okay, number 6. I mean, that was 6. Let's do 7. This looks this will look weird, but I'll explain it. F inverse, because that's f of inverse means f to the negative 1, f of inverse of 2. So that's what they're asking, f of inverse of 2. So we said that f of x we don't need g of x right now. Okay, so f of x equals 2x plus 9. We can also write f of x as y, because they're the same thing. Y equals 2x plus 9. We got to find the inverse of this. So to take the inverse, you simply switch the values and then solve for y. So instead of this being y, we call this x. And then instead of this x, we call this y. So it's 2 times y plus 9. Then we solve for y. So I'm going to subtract 9, both sides. So we have x minus 9 equals 2y. And then it's divided by 2. So y equals x minus 9 over 2. And this is the same thing as, this is the inverse, so we call that f of negative 1. Because that's the same thing. So f of inverse is this, x minus 9 over 2. But we got to plug in 2 into that function. So let's look at this function. So wherever there's an x, you plug in 2. That's really what it means. So it's 2 minus 9 over 2. So what is 2 minus 9? 2 minus 9 is negative 7. And then divided by 2. So your final answer should be f of negative 1 of 2 is negative 7 over 2. Okay, let's do the last one. This is the last one. And the last one's always the hardest, so f of inverse of 3. So okay, so what we're saying is you got to find the f of inverse and then you plug in 3 into that function, and then whatever that answer is, you plug it into the function of f. So remember we said that f of x is 2x plus 9. And then remember from the last problem, we said that f of inverse is x minus 9 over 2. Because we got that from the last problem. And if you don't remember how we did it, it's basically you plug in y. This was y, right? Y equals 2x plus 9. And then you just switch the values, so x equals 2y plus 9. And then you solve for y. So y equals x minus 9 over 2. So that's what, this is the f of inverse. So that's how we got this. So now we gotta find f of inverse of 3. So let's look at this function, because that's what f of inverse is. You plug in 3, so wherever you see an x, you plug in 3. 3 minus 9 over 2. What is that? 3 minus 9 is negative 6 over 2. So negative 6 over 2 is negative 3. So we know, okay, so we know that f of inverse of 3 is negative 3. Is negative 3. Okay, so now we just got to put in that into the function of f. So f of negative 3 is what? So let's look at the original function, not the inverse. We said that the f is 2x plus 9, so wherever there's an x, you just plug in negative 3. So that's 2 times negative 3 plus 9. So 2 times negative 3 is negative 6 plus 9. So your final answer, it should be negative 6 plus 9 is just positive 3. So this is your final answer. So basically, you always start from the right and then move to the left, right? Because first we found f of inverse, which is x minus 9 over 2, and then you plug in 3 into that function, and we said that that was negative 3, and then you plug in negative 3 into the original function f of x, and then that's how we get positive 3. And that's it for this section.